And we're live. I looked up and it was 2 o'clock, so it's time to start. So welcome to another edition of RockSim Live. I think we're on episode number 171 today. So thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon. It's kind of weird to be talking to rockets on a Friday, but here we are every week. And thank you all for coming and joining us. We have a number of people that are already here. Carlos in Marietta, Georgia is here. And he says, greetings from warm and windy Marietta, Georgia. And David Hayes says he was just back from camping on Lake Michigan. It's kind of soggy to camp on Lake Michigan unless you're on a boat. But that would be cool. Very cool to be in Michigan right now. Lake Michigan is a beautiful place. I have fond memories of growing up in the Chicago area. And so we went through Indiana and Michigan all the time for camping trips up there. It's beautiful. We have Fatbag here. It's been a while, Fatbag. He's from Katy, Texas. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I've got a monitor right here and I got the chat going, so you can go ahead and put in your questions about RockSim, RockSim Pro, or the Launch Visualizer. We can talk about any of those things today, or rockets in general. So go ahead and put those questions in because this is audience driven. What you want to talk about is what I do here. I'm like a little performing monkey doing what I'm told. So if you are brand new to RockSim, where do we need to do this one? This is our website. It's apogeerockets.com. This is where you get RockSim or RockSim Pro. There's a scrolling banner right here, and if you click on it enough times, you'll see the RockSim 11 banner, and if you click on that, it'll take you to a page where you can get RockSim. So you can purchase it right here. We lowered the price for RockSim 11. It's now down to $50. And then we have this video here about the generic purpose of RockSim, which is to design and simulate rockets, so you can fly your real rockets better and have better performance and be safer and get them back. If you continue to scrolling, you'll find a free 30-day trial that you can play with. If you've never used RockSim before, this is where you would start. Just download that free trial, and we will send you an email on how to get to the how-to videos. And I'll show you that in just a second. But also on this page, we have what's new in version 11. So we made a number of changes. 1, 2, 3, I'm scrolling through here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 changes. And then we made a lot of bug fixes as well to version 11. So our tutorial videos that are kind of like the official how to get started ones. If you go to how-to and guides, click on that, come down here to software, and then over here it says RockSim video tutorials. So that's kind of where you would start clicking on that. And here, how to get started by opening an existing design and running a simple simulation. So that's kind of like, I want to learn how to use RockSim. So we say, just open a design, and there's a lot of them in the RockSim folder. Once you download it, you get a whole bunch of designs, hundreds of designs. You can just open one and then just run a quick simulation and just to get your feet wet, just to see how the rocket's going to take off and do all that good stuff. And then once you do that, then you want to look at the flight profile and actually see what your trajectory looks like. And then, you can start getting into, customizing the 3D view. And then when you get down to video 9, this is like, I want to start designing my own rockets. And here's where you would start. So that is our video tutorials. Also, if you go to the home page, and you scroll down a little bit, you will find this RockSim free training right here. And if you click on the image right here, it will take you to the archives. And this is all the previous episodes of the RockSim Live training that we do on the Fridays. And they're all on YouTube. So here's the YouTube video. And then there are links to all the timestamps in the videos for, doing things. Like if you go to 24 minutes and 34 seconds, you would find where we talked about adjusting your screen size. So that's kind of like how to get started and where to go. And so we have some good questions. Fat Bank, Carlos had the first question, and I think I'm reading Fat Bank's question. It's fairly similar. Carlos says, question number 1, where does RockSim report the interior volume used for calculating black powder for the ejection charges for like doing dual deployment? Okay, so here I actually have RockSim Pro up on the screen, but RockSim would be very similar. Just adjusting the screen size here. Okay, so what we want for dual deployment, let's open up a dual deployment rocket, see if we got one. The level 2 kit. Save my changes, no. Okay, so here is the level 2 rocket from Apogee. And this is a dual deployment rocket. And so we have, let's go to the 2D view, which is over here. And we can see one of the parachutes is right here, this one that has a parachute. And if we go to the design components tab, it'll tell us, what that parachute is. It's the 58-inch main parachute. And then we have over here, this other P is the smaller parachute. And if you click on that, that's our 18-inch drogue parachute. So this is a dual deployment rocket, and then I got some fins that are canted here. I can see that. So in a dual deployment rocket, you want to pressurize the parachute compartment so you can push it out. So like we need to push the nose cone off and then push the parachute out. So we want to calculate the volume of the compartment that the parachute is in. And since this is my rocket, I know that this is a bulkhead right here for the electronics bay. And then right here we have the nose cone and we have the shoulder right here. So our compartment goes from this to that. So that's the internal volume that we need to pressurize. And so Carlos's question is, where do we determine what that volume is? All right, so what was new in RockSim version 11, so you have to have the latest version. This does not work on version 10 or previous. So you go to the rocket menu, and then you come down here to ejection charge calculator. So again, it's the rocket menu, come down to ejection charge calculator and click on that. And then it brings up this screen right here, and this is our new ejection charge calculator. And it works pretty simple. We're just going to define the volume, and then down here, it's going to tell us exactly how much black powder is required. And at the same time, which is Carlos's question, is what's the length and what's the volume? Really, what we really care about is the amount of black powder, which is over here. But you can get the information right here as well. So how do you use this? Well, there's some help text right here, and there's this little checkbox that says show help text. And the help text is right here. It says, please select the body tube to be pressurized. So I'm just going to come down here and just click on the tube. And you can see it created a gray area on the tube, and if you look at it down here, it says the length to be pressurized is 20 inches, and the diameter is 3.9, and we got a volume of 238.9 cubic inches. Well, this is too big because we said before we only want to pressurize from the back of the nose cone to the front of the bulkhead here. So what you do is you'll notice that when you move the cursor, it changes. on the ends of the gray area, and you can click and drag. So what I'm doing is I'm shortening the volume here. So before it was 20 inches, now we're at 15, and if I go to the other side, I can shorten that one as well. So now we're at 11.9 inches, and this matches what we need to pressurize. And so now we're at 11.9 inches, total volume is 142, and the black powder required is 0.587 grams. So now on the back end, say you want to pressurize this tube. So again, you would just select the tube and adjust the lengths. So we're adjusting it like here, and we're going to adjust it to the front of this bulkhead right here. And we have, our black powder required and our desired internal pressure. So by default, it's 8 pounds per square inch. The typical range is 8 to 15 pounds per square inch. So we give you a slider bar here to move it to different pressures. So right now I have it set at 11 psi. And as when we change that, watch the number down here for the black powder required. If I want more pressure, the black powder amount goes up. And if I want less pressure, it goes down, of course. So it's pretty simple. You can also add shear pins. I'm going to add 3 shear pins. And basically, you would probably put your shear pins on your nose cone to keep that nose cone from coming off prematurely. We want it to come off, but we don't want it to come off until the ejection charge goes off. And that's the purpose of the shear pins, is to prevent things from popping off too early, because that can happen in rocketry. And the reason is this is a pressure vessel in here, which means that once you put the nose cone on and it's got that bulkhead on the back end, it's like a balloon and it's holding air. And that's fine, that can hold air, but what happens to air pressure surrounding the rocket when the rocket goes up in altitude? So as you know, your air pressure decreases as you go up high in the sky until you're in space when you have zero pressure, where you have a vacuum. So you have a high pressure on the ground and a low pressure up in the sky. So this pressure vessel right here contains that pressure on the ground. But when you get up in the air, now the pressure inside the rocket is greater than the air pressure on the outside. And so what it wants to do is it wants to just automatically just push the nose cone off because there's more pressure on the inside than on the outside. Well, we don't want it to happen prematurely. We want it to come off when it's at its peak altitude, not while it's still going up. So that's the purpose of shear pins, is we're putting little tiny plastic pins in there between the body tube and the nose cone to prevent the nose cone from popping off. But these shear pins are so small that they can be cut when you increase the pressure enough inside the tube. And so these shear pins that like we sell here at Apogee, they have a known amount of force that it takes to cut them. And when you add shear pins, the amount of black powder goes way up. So we're here at 1.44. If I take it down to 0, now we're at 0.85. So almost double the amount of black powder by adding 3 shear pins. And then you could also select the number 4 size shear pins. These are even stronger, and you're going to need more force to get those sheared in half. Typically, you don't use the big shear pins unless you have a large diameter rocket where you have so much internal volume that there's a lot of pressure trying to push that nose cone off. For most model rockets, you're going to use the number 2. All right, so that is how to find the ejection charge, the amount of black powder required. Now, Fatbank asks a question. He says, can black powder substitutes be used instead of black powder in the ejection charge calculator module? And the answer is no. because we had to put in the, I forget the terminology for it, and I should know this, but there's a specific gas constant for black powder versus other chemicals. It's the amount of gas they liberate when they ignite. Black powder liberates X number of moles of particles, where other chemicals can liberate or release more or less particles than black powder. Typically, they're less. Black powder, it's an explosive, so where other substitutes are safer, so they release their gas slower and less of it. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Less, maybe about the same, but it's typically a slower. So you want to use black powder because it instantly releases its gas when it burns, because it does explode. That's a technical term, explosion. But we had to hard code that value in for black powder. And I don't know what other substitute you'd want to use, but you might be able to say, oh, I may need a little bit more or a little bit less. At least it gives you a starting point. But that was a pretty good question. David Hayes says, on the design screen, what is the span diameter? Can I make a guess? But I would like to know. Okay, so going back to this screen here, let me open up a different rocket because these fins are canted. What do we got? The North Coast Rocketry Phantom 4000. Do I want to change? No. Okay, so here is a new rocket. This is the North Coast Rocketry Phantom 4000, which is a brand new rocket that's going to be released on Tuesday here at Apogee Components. It's 4-inch diameter and it's 50-something inches long. So what his question is, okay, when you go to the 2D screen right here it says span diameter 9.9 inches. So what is that? Well, if we look at the back view of the rocket, let me detach the screen so I can make it bigger. Okay, so here is the back view of the rocket, and this span diameter is if you drew a circle around the perimeter of the fins, what is the diameter of that circle? So it kind of gives you a diameter. If you were launching this rocket out of a silo, you know, like the military does with intercontinental ballistic missiles, they launch them from a silo. That is the diameter of the silo that you would need to, you know, that would hold that rocket. So that's why we put that in there. Also, you know, sometimes if you have a tower launcher, you would, you know, it has rods that are nest around the rocket like this. But in order to keep those 3 rods, you know, they're going to be like that. To keep them from moving around, you need a ring that's even bigger than those rods. But the fins, you can't have your fins smash into those rings, so you need a ring that's larger in diameter than your span diameter. So that's kind of why span diameter is a number that you would like to know. If you're just launching off of a rail, you probably don't need to know the span diameter, but that information is there. So this screen, I detached it, so to put it back, I just drag it down until the screen moves like that. And once it moves, you just release it, and it will pop it right back into place. You can also go to the edit menu or the view menu, and you can do restore window default, and that will also put that screen back there. So that was David's question. And Low Budget Bob is here from Buckeye, Arizona. Cool. David Hayes asks, and where, again, did you post your square fin design? Okay, so we go back to the Apogee website. So you go here to the RockSim home, and then you scroll down until you get to the free RockSim training, and then you click on the image, and that's going to take you to the archives. And that one where we did the square rocket fins was episode number 169. And in that episode, here is the files. The RockSim file for the square tube fin rocket is right there. So that's where we posted that. Stuart LaFond, he says, hello, Tim in Vermont. Had a great time at LDRS 42. Weather not the greatest, but got off 3 launches. Cool. Yeah, that was LDRS 42 was in New York State. Well, that's cool. I wish I could have been there. Carlos says, Apogee sells many great 13mm motor kits, including boost gliders. If B14-5T engines ever come, which ones are they likely to get shredded? Okay, so the B14-5T, and this is going to be a motor from Aerotech Quest, but it is not a 13mm motor. It is, okay, so here's Quest motors. It will be an 18mm diameter motor. So your question is, which of the 18mm motors is going to be shredded? I saw at National Sport Launch, I don't know if they did this at LDRS, but at the National Sport Launch in Alamosa, which was on Memorial Day, Aerotech was there and they did a demo of the B14-5 motor. And to be honest, I was unimpressed. It's a good motor. It's a high thrust motor, but it's like, and it's gone. It would have been a better if it was a B14-0, because that's what everybody wants, is they don't really want the B14-5, the 5-second delay. They want the 0-second delay that Estes used to make, because that is a great booster motor. But we talked about this before on this RockSim Live, is that with composite motors, which is what Quest and Aerotech make, they can't have a booster motor with a 0-second delay. It's just, the laws of physics just say, no, probably not going to happen. And then composite motors also can't be ignited by the ejection charge of a booster motor like an Estes motor. So they can't stage them the same way. But if you had a B14, so what you would do, you would go to the shopping menu, and then come down here to the very bottom corner, right-hand corner, where it says sortable list. Click on that. And this gives you a list of all the Apogee kits that we sell. And there are hundreds of them. You can scroll for a long, long way. To make it easier to find things, click on here, select comparison columns. So now I'm going to turn off auto, and I want to select motor size. I don't really care about the part number, the manufacturer, or the launch pad, or the altitude, or the payload diameter, or the length. I just want to know, do we have it in stock? What's the price? What motor size is it? What's the diameter of the rocket? What's the length? What's the skill level? And give me a picture. So when you do that, changes the list. So now all of these are, it resorted everything, but now we're going to say, I want to see, I want to select this column. I just want to show the 18 millimeter kits. And so now this list only shows those that are 18 millimeter in diameter. Now your question is, which of these is most likely to shred with a B14-5? And the answer is, I would say anything that's a glider, I probably would not put in it a B14 inch. So the Condor Boost Glider, and I'm going to open this in a new tab. And the reason is gliders have wide wings. And this gets back to that span diameter that we just talked about, is, you know, the further your fins stick out or the wings stick outside of the rocket, the more force that's going to be on them, the more likely that they might shred. So I would stay away from gliders with a B14. I'm just kind of scrolling through this list here. I think most of these, I would probably stay away from the Pegasus. Open that one in a new tab. And maybe the Little Green Man. These are great rockets, but they're, you know, because they have odd shapes and the fins, if you look at these fins, they stick out pretty far, so they got that big span, and they're also very short, so they don't have a lot of glue holding them on. So while the Pegasus is a fun rocket, I probably wouldn't put a B14 in it. And the Little Green Man, for the same reasons, it's got these little eyeballs right here that they'll probably might want to come off. The antenna, they'll probably just bend over. But it's also got these fins where they're tip plates on the tips of the fins, but they can't inward. And that could also cause a lot of drag, and that drag means that they might fall off. I'd probably stay away from the Stratus Gale, which is another boost glider. I'd probably stay away from the Satellite Killer. Again, it's got big fins. Again, maybe the F-104. It's got fins in the back that are kind of small. The Starship Excalibur, I think that one might be okay. Maybe stay away from the Mars Snooper. So here's the F-104 and what it looks like. It's got these little fins here in the back. Yeah, those might be susceptible to damage. But you get the idea. Anything with big fins and high thrust motors, that could put a lot of stress on things. But it's a cool question. Fat Bank is still talking about black powder. He says synthetic black powder is his substitute for real black powder. David Hayes, Terry Wheelock says to David Hayes, I will post a video of the square tube fin rocket. I just posted a triangle tube fin rocket video on my channel. Okay, Terry, put your channel in the comments here, and we'll try to go find it to see your video. Terry Wheelock says, Tim, we are launching a rocket from a B-52 today. Okay. I wonder if it's a real B-52 or I don't know. That's a good question. Okay. So, where was I? Let me see, what rocket are we? We have the Phantom 4000. So today I am actually playing with the beta version of RockSim Pro, and there's a new feature that I'd like to show you what's coming. It's not here yet. This is still beta version, but it has me like really excited. So we're going to run a simulation. I'm going to find a motor here, choose an engine. We'll go with a G75-10. Let's go 7. Click OK there. Under flight events, deploy the parachute at maximum ejection delay. Starting state, 5-foot long launch rod. Launching 17 degrees, and we're launching it to kind of like this. Imagine this is a compass, and so this would be southwest. Simulation controls, leave that alone. Launch conditions, this is choosing the launch site, and we'll choose the San Diego Dart Club launch site in San Diego, California. I'm going to change the altitude here. I'm going to change it to 4 feet, and we'll make that landing zone 2 feet, because they're, San Diego's right next to the ocean, so they're pretty low, and you'll see here in just a second what's going to happen. So here's the new feature. When you go to the flight profile, it's going to run the simulation, and it's going to bring up what's called the launch visualizer, and the launch visualizer is going to be enhanced in this new version. I just killed my screen. There it is. All right, so here is the rocket. It's sitting on the pad, and when I moved my launch altitude up 4 feet, and apparently it's not enough, so I thought this, I don't know if you can see the difference. What I'm showing you here is the background is an image of the launch site, and previously we were using images provided by Bing, by Microsoft Bing Maps, and then we had to switch to MapTiler because we couldn't get the Bing Maps to work with our geospatial software stack called VTS. But now if you look right here, our maps are going to be provided by Google. And Google has the best maps, and the quality on these maps is just phenomenal. Look how beautiful this scenery is. So our launch site is right there where my cursor is, and I'm not exactly sure where they launch from, but I assume it's, here's the parking area, and they're probably going to launch somewhere in this area right here. You got to be very careful launching here because you have water here. And if I zoom out, this is almost an island. We got a little connection right here. And let's see, I'm swinging this arrow, the black arrow is our north direction. So I'm going to swing north to the up direction. So, our launch area is right there where my pointer is. And if we keep zooming out, you can see this is, here's the Pacific Ocean right here. And so here's a bay that they launch from. And there's just so much detail right here. So right here across the bay from the launch site, I believe this is SeaWorld in San Diego. You can see all the pools of water right here. And if I zoom in right here, I think this is the orca fish tank. And I believe that's a whale right there. And there's a whale right there. And there's one swimming right there. I think there's another one right there. So just the quality of the maps makes a huge difference. And so we're going to launch this rocket. And this is 3 dimensions, so I can rotate it around. San Diego, this part is pretty flat because we're right next to the ocean. But this is full 3D. And we launch the rocket, and the rocket's taking off. This is the smoke trail, and I aimed it to the southwest, remember, and you can get a close-up view of the rocket right there. I can turn that off. That's called the mini view. So right now, if I pause it, our rocket is right there. Oops, I lost the rocket. Oops, I'm going in the wrong direction. Let's change this view to a trajectory view. And it's spun it around. The nice thing about the trajectory view is that it has this little button right up here that says, find my rocket. Like if you lose your rocket, find my rocket. And then it puts the rocket right smack dab in the middle of the screen. And then once it's in the middle of the screen, you can use the plus and minus buttons to find the rocket. So there's the rocket right there. And you can just, you can see, oh, there's a person walking right there. There's the shadow of the person. Oh, yeah, he's in the landing zone area. He shouldn't be there. And we can continue the launch, and you can see our rocket is coming down. So that's what's coming for you people that are using RockSim Pro. We're going to give you the great maps. It cost me a lot of money. That's why it's only going to be available in RockSim Pro. RockSim Pro costs a little bit more, but it's worth it. Look at this. Look where that rocket landed. Now I can see. And so I'm trying to figure out what this is right here. It's some kind of man-made structure. It looks like there's a fence along here. I don't know. I can see shadows here of palm trees, and I can see somebody on a bicycle right there. Another bike rider right there. This is so cool. I'm just loving it. Yeah, so that is what's coming in soon. It won't be too much longer. Like I said, this is a beta version that I'm testing. This is why you watch RockSim Live, is so you can find out the new stuff that's coming. So that's so cool. Going back over here, Terry Wheelock says, my channel is Terry Wheelock. Okay, let's see if we can find it. So let's go to YouTube. And while YouTube comes up, let's see, we got Terry, Wheelock. Oop, I got too many R's. And he's got a mouse. Is this yours, Terry, with the mouse? Oh, it does look like Terry's. Like he's got, he's working in some CAD software right there. Tiny tanks. So what was he talking about? Oh, he was talking about the square fin rocket. And that's the, let's see if I can find it by doing, type in square fin. See if anything pops up. Alright, so the tri-tube fin. Okay, let's see what this is. A short. Does that? Yeah, it kind of looks like RockSim. He's moving things around. Very cool. Okay, that's replaying. And he's done a thrust vector control. That's nice too. All right, well, great work, Terry. Glad to see it. And he's using RockSim, so. Terry Wheelock says there are blimps and UFOs in Google Street Views sometimes. Cool. We don't have the street views. It's just the aerial images. Yeah. David Hayes says to Alfred Indy, did you go to the Team 1 launch last weekend? Terry says his new channel has his picture on it. Well, that's what came up, Terry. We'll try one more time. Maybe if I spell Terry's name right. Let's try this one. It has a picture on it. Okay, so there's Terry. He's got a Barbie rocket, the D box. Yeah, well, that's very similar to the other one. But he's using some kind of CAD software there. That's cool. All right. So last week, Terry asked a good question. We only got 20 minutes left. And his question was, could you put a glider, like a parasite glider, on a rocket? And since we have time, let's can we do that? So first, let's get a rocket that's big enough. So let me open a rocket, maybe let's see, what do we want? Something like a BT-70, not a flying machine, but a rising star. Okay, so rising star rocket. Let's open that. Save my changes. No. Okay, so here's a rocket, and this is generic looking rocket, but it's fairly big. It's BT-70, so it's got a 2.2 inch diameter body tube, and this would make a great stable rocket for a glider. So let's see if we can design a glider rocket. So anything on the outside of the rocket, if we're going to attach anything to the outside, we have to use a component called a pod. So we're going to design this. So we're going to go to the Rocket Design Components tab. And then we have to decide where on the rocket we want this glider. And typically when you attach a glider to a rocket, you put it as close to the fins as possible because the wings are going to act like fins. And we want to make sure our rocket is stable, where the center of pressure does not move in front of the center of gravity. So I want to make sure as we design it, we're stable. So I'm going to put a rocket motor in this just so that we have some weight in the back. And I'll use an Estes D12-3 and we'll click OK. So the reason I did that was just so I can have some weight in the back. So before our center of gravity was here, now it's back here. That makes the rocket less stable, but we're still plenty stable. So that's why I chose this rocket. So now I need to decide where I'm going to attach the pod, and I'm going to attach it to this tube. So I click on the tube to highlight it. And then you can see it up here that it's highlighted. And now we're going to attach the pod to that tube. So the order here is important. So you got to know where you're attaching it. What is the parent of this new component? And this new component is called the pod, and we'll call it the glider attachment pod. And we don't know what this looks like yet, but this pod can be ejected during simulations because we want it to come down. So right now it's attached at the front of this, and I'm going to slide it back a little bit. And so here's where it's going to be attached. That's going to be the front of our glider. So I'm going to put it there. And now we can start attaching components to this glider. So now I'm going to design a simple glider, and it's basically going to look like a regular rocket with a tube and a nose cone and maybe 3 fins on the back end. And 2 wings. Gotta have wings. So I'm going to start with a nose cone, and we'll make it small, maybe like a BT-50, which is the 24 millimeter diameter. but this one's only 6 inches long. I think there's here it is, 24 millimeters long, or 24 millimeter diameter. It doesn't tell me the length, but I'm pretty sure it's 18 inches. And oops, I should have started with the nose cone. So let me cancel that. Save your changes, no. Let's start with the nose cone. So we want a BT50 or 29 or 24 millimeter diameter. I'll go with this one right here. You can see it added the nose cone right there, which is perfectly fine. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And click OK. So we have our nose cone. Now we're going to add the body tube. So click on that, add the tube, and it's going to hang it really far back. Let's make it shorter. And I'm just grabbing the slider to shorten up the length. And there is the tube. So, and it's made out of paper. I think I like it. You know, you can change the color if you want. We're going to move ahead because we're kind of low on time. Okay, so now we're going to add fins and wings. So we're going to select this, and we're going to add our wings. There's no button called wings, so we're going to add a fin and just going to shape it like a wing. So I'm going to add fins, and I'm going to cancel out of the database. And it added the fins right here, but we need to make these wings. So I'm going to change the location of those. I'm going to put it like right here. And I'm going to make it, instead of 3, make it 2. And right now these fins are going into the body tube. So I'm going to change their position. So I'm going to go to the radial position tab, and I'll make that 90 degrees. And see, now they're this way. And if I look at it from a top view, you can see now our wings come out that way. If I look at it from the bottom view, yeah, they're in the right spot, except for they got a fin going right through the middle of it. So we'll change that. So we'll select that. So we're going to swing the whole pod. So if I want to move all the components, I'm going to go back to my glider attachment pod, and I'm going to edit that pod by double-clicking. And you'll notice that this also has a radial position tab. And I'm going to I want to swing it around 180 degrees. So I'm just going to go to the angle and change that to 180. And you can see it moved it to the bottom of the tube, so it's no longer interfering with that fin. And the wings are in between the fins, which is really nice. Actually, that's almost like perfect. What that does is it keeps that glider from wobbling around because it's nested right between the fins. I'll click OK on that. And I'm going to save my design just so that in case it crashes, which I hope not. Rising Star with glider. And I'm going to put it on the desktop so I know where it is. Hit save. Okay, so we got the wings. Let's go back to those wings. So it collapsed it, so just hit the little caret, and now we'll go back to the wings, and let's call these the wings. And let's change the view so that we can see what these wings look like. So now let's make them look like wings. So the wings, we need to make them a little bit bigger. So I'm going to change the root chord. Let's make it 3 inches. The tip chord, let's make that 2 inch, maybe 1.5 inches. And let's change the sweep angle. So I'm sweeping them backwards again, right here. So you can see them. These are the green wings. This is a small parasite glider, and we don't want to make it big because we don't want to make the rocket unstable. I'm going to make them out of balsa so that they're lighter in weight. I'm going to make them an airfoil section. And the cross, so if I look at it in 3D, this is in RockSim 11, which is the same as RockSim Pro, which is the same as 11. And you can make airfoiled fins. I'm trying to, come on. Trying to rotate it. There we go. I don't know if you can see that the tiny little airfoil right there on those wings. Now we can't make this a cambered airfoil. Cambered, right now it's symmetrical. A cambered airfoil, we typically like it to be a symmetric or cambered airfoil so that we generate lift at zero angle of attack. We can't make cambered airfoils, but we can make them symmetrical. So we might want to move the location of these a little bit forward, like right there. Let's change the color so that just we can see it a little bit nicer. Let's make it maybe orange. Okay, so now we have orange wings. Okay, so that's our wings. All right, so let's go back to the top view so we can see it. So now we're going to add the tail fins. And so I'm going to select the body tube. I'm going to add another set of fins. And these are going to be a little bit smaller. So these are also orange right now. And when it started, it added 3 of them. So if we look at it from the bottom, you can't see the third one because it goes up into the tube. But if we look at it from the base view, they're green right now. Again, we're going to have 2 of them. And then we need, right now they're this way. We need to change the radial position. Let's make it 90 degrees. So now they're that way. Let's go back to the top view. Okay, so here's the back fins, and they need to be smaller. So we're going to go back to the General tab, the root cord, let's make them 1 inch. And the tip cord, I don't know, let's call it 1 inch. The semi-span will make them smaller. Make it 1 inch. Okay, so that's smaller. And then let's move them to the back of the part. So from the base of the part is where I'm going to have the position. I'm going to make it 0 inches from the base of the part. That means we're going to be measured from the back of the tube, which I think is right here. And when I hit tab, yeah, so they move back. So let's look at it in 3D just to kind of give you a better perspective on it. Okay, and again, we're going to make these airfoiled. And I like them. I like the way they look. They're kind of hidden right there. Let's make them a little bit thinner. 0.0625, which is 1/16 of an inch. Now they're thinner. They're still made out of balsa wood. So we'll call this the horizontal stabilizer. And we'll click OK. Carlos says, will RockSim ever have an autosave every time that we add a part? That's a good idea. I'll have to ask the programmer if it's possible. Yeah. Okay, so let's add now the vertical tail. So again, we're going to attach it to that tube, add another fin, cancel out of the database, and again on our rocket, you can see that it added another set of fins. Let's change the color so you can tell them apart. Let's make it purple. Okay, so here are our new fins. And we'll call this the vertical tail. And we only need 1 fin. And what it did was it probably put it on the inside of the rocket again. So the radial position, let's look at the back view. Yeah, so there is the fin. Let's flip it, again, 180 degrees. All right, let's go to the General tab, and let's look at it from this view. From this view, we can't see how big it is, so we'll have to go to this view, and we can see this is our green fin right there. So we need to make this one smaller. So we'll make it 0.75. Tip cord, 0.65, semi-span, 0.75. Again, we'll make it from the base of the tube, its location, 0 inches, so that's the whole vertical tail. I think it might be a little bit too small. Let's make it 1 inch. Again, airfoiled. 0.0625 inches. Let's look at it in 3D just to make sure it looks right. All right, so there is our glider. All right, and let's save this glider. And let's run a simulation. So this is where it starts. So this part up to now was the easy part. Now we're going to get into the hard part, making it glide. All right, so first let's run a simulation. We're going to do a D12.3, and let's do the flight profile and just kind of get a baseline of where we are right now. So this rocket on a D12.3, I just saw it went 368 feet into the sky. There's the rocket, and my fins are the wrong color. They turned to yellow. Okay, like I said, this is the beta. Yeah, the beta has a little bug right there. Let's click OK. I think it's got one fin correct. I think it's got the vertical tail fin. Oh, actually, they are the right color. Maybe it was just the lighting angle that I was looking at. Yeah, that's it. It's the lighting angle. So from this angle, it looks yellow. But if I spin it around here, the lighting conditions have changed, and now they're oranged. All right, and there's our rocket sitting on the pad. And we are still at that launch site in San Diego. All right, so we got the pod with the glider on it. Let's launch it and see what happens. Does the glider fall off? And the glider did not fall off. Let's pause it right there. And let's zoom in just to verify that the glider is still attached. So how do we get the glider to fall off? All right, so now if you are a familiar, frequent watcher of this channel, of our RockSim Lives, to get the glider to fall off, we need what's called an event. An event is like a trigger that says, at this point in time, do something. And what we want to do is to detach the glider. So how do we create an event? The unfortunate thing is we're limited on what we can use as a trigger. And in rocketry, what we use as the triggering control system is the rocket motor itself. So, like if you were to stage a rocket, the upper stage is triggered by the bottom stage. So when the bottom stage is done burning, then we can say start the top stage. So at some point in the flight, we need this glider to fall off, and it's the ejection charge that's going to kick it off. So we need to put a rocket motor inside of the glider so that it has a triggering mechanism. Fortunately, we can do that. So we're going to put a rocket motor inside of here. But what we talked about in the past is we want it to be a fake motor, in quotation marks. And I see it's 3 o'clock, so that's it. We're out of time. Yes, I'm gonna give a cliffhanger here. You got to come back next week to see the conclusion of this. What I think I will do is at this point we've got it partially designed, and I will put it on our website like I did before, on our page on our website. So if you go to the home page, click on the home page button, come to the home page, come down here to the RockSim Live training, and go to episode number 170, and I will have the link to download the RockSim file for the rocket at this point in time. And now, then you can play with it and see if you can get it to glide. The caveat here is you really need RockSim Pro. And there's a reason for that, and I will talk about that reason in the next episode. So that's the cliffhanger. You don't need the beta version of RockSim Pro. You just need the regular version of RockSim, the current version, which is RockSim 4. It will do everything that I can do in the beta version. The difference in my beta version is those Google Maps. So you're gonna have the old maps, which are not as good as the Google Maps, but they're still good enough for what we're doing here. So thanks for coming. I hate to leave a cliffhanger, but I'm going to. We'll see how many more people show up if I do this. It's been fun. We will be back next week. Next week is June 28th. We will be back. I'm not planning on going anywhere unless there's some kind of emergency. The week after that will be July 5. Now the July 4th here in the United States is called Independence Day, and that's a national holiday. It's one of the big ones. It's our Independence Day. So typically a lot of people take time off, and so the 4th, I know what's going to happen. People are going to take off the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th, so you get a 4-day weekend. So because of that, we'll probably not do RockSim Live training on July 5. But then we'll be back the following week after that, which is the 12th. So hopefully we'll be back on the 12th. But we will be here till June 28th, which is next Friday. And we'll conclude this exercise on making a parasite glider on a rocket. So, until then, I hope you have a great week. Have a great weekend. I'll give you a countdown, and we'll do it from there. So, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch something. And now I got to wait a little bit longer for the YouTube to catch up to me, and then we'll be done. And it takes about 20 seconds for it, because I want to get the cutoff right this time. Hopefully that's been long enough. So at this point, I'll end it. I think I'm watching the feed live as you are watching.